La Morisque, a tune I've known, I don't even remember how long I've known it, but a very, very long time. And it was part of my Melinar last night. 2 nights ago even, I led a Melinar on my Patreon for my Patreon subscribers, all about easy tunes that you can learn in a kind of sequence that are very related. So they are all very similar to each other, which can be a bit of a minefield in terms of memory and memorizing tunes. But also it can be a really great way to build repertoire fast, is if you can learn tunes that are very familiar and similar to each other. So, if you would like to take part in that Melinar and get hold of all 12 tunes that I linked together in a very logical pattern, and the reasons for the logic is all explained within the tutorial, then I've left a link down below in the description to that Melinar, so you can go and have a read about that. And yeah, it was really, really interesting. And what was most interesting was the discussion that happened after the Melinar, which I will include in this video because I just think that it was so interesting. My Patreon community are absolutely incredible. I am really lucky to have such an engaged group of followers who support each other as well as myself, and we, between us, have some really interesting conversations every month when I do my live Melinars, and also in our sharing Sundays on our Facebook group, which anyone can join, by the way. You don't have to be a paid up member of my Patreon. You can just come and find the Mel's Angels support group. If you find the Mel Biggs Music Facebook page, and it's linked, it's associated with that. And it's a sharing Sunday event where you can just share whatever you've been working on that week on whatever instrument, even if it's not music related. You know, if you've just been traveling somewhere or something interesting came up, you know, online that you thought was interesting and it's worth sharing. So that is a really nice community to be part of. It's a supportive community. Yes, opinions are shared, but the whole ethos behind it is that it's kind, it's supportive, and it's about encouraging people to dive into what they most want in life and out of the Melodeon. So yeah, I'm really stoked that I get to be kind of the leader of this community, and I take a lot of inspiration from my Patreon members. And yeah, I just want to share that with more people. So it's time for me to shout up about my incredible Patreon community. Thank you so much to everyone who subscribes and contributes to the tutorials and all of the requests that I put out for ideas that I can put into my Melinar content, but also, most interestingly, the comment sections and the Q&As at the end of the Melinars for those that are on the live. It's always so interesting to know how things come across and then what jogs your memory and how it's helping you, basically, and how we can help each other to learn and achieve more of our dreams, basically. So without further ado, I'm going to include the discussion from Tuesday's Melinar, and I really hope that if it inspires you to come and join, have a look at the Facebook page, but also if you would like to subscribe to get the paid for content on my Patreon. It's not that expensive, and there's a lot of it available for free as well, so you can have a little look before you even buy, and yeah, come and have a little look at what's going on over there. So, as I say, not an exhaustive list. I would really love you guys to be like in the comments, what else have I missed? What could I really have shoved in there? And also, where does it come in the cascade? Because I really tried to keep them all simple, but show you how they evolve, essentially. So there's like an evolution there of adding in more and more familiar patterns. Let me know, what do you reckon?
That was great. A few tunes there I knew, quite a few that I didn't, but I can see the logic in working through them. So that gives me a hit list now,
Cool.
and a good collection of tunes, you know, to have at the end of it as well. So that's
Totally. And like, as I
fantastic.
say, there's so many more. I'm glad to hear that a lot of them were unfamiliar, because as I was putting it together, I thought, oh God, these feel so obvious. But that's me with 20 odd years of playing under my belt. So
Yeah,
it obviously would. And it's good to know that it's a good reminder that for somebody like yourself who's at the more beginner end and you're learning all this stuff on the fly in sessions,
yeah,
yeah, obviously nobody is born knowing this. So actually, yeah, you do need those little guiding hands to go, oh, do you know that these are all similar? And like you know, like you wanted is, if
yeah,
you just learn these little phrases, it'll unlock all of these tunes for you.
yeah.
Even to the point of being able to play along with most of it, but not all of it. But in a session, if you can do that, my biggest I feel like it's a bit of a selling point. But in my session survival skills series that I did on here, and it's ongoing,
Hmm.
I'm adding to it all the time, and in the workshop that I do that I know you've been to, my biggest selling point is trying to make it feel like if you just keep doing it, you will get better and you will learn more in that
Hmm.
moment. Because a lot of people get, it's a very stressful thing to turn up and not know a lot of things that are getting played, or it's going too fast and how do I get involved here? I don't know a lot of the repertoire. Know your familiar patterns and then you can play along with most things just about. And as
Hmm.
you start to relax in that, the rest of the notes, as I said, come along by instinct and intuition. And you'll surprise yourself when that starts happening. And I hope and pray that it does, so that you don't think I'm lying to you, that you'll be like, oh yeah, I'm learning this stuff a lot quicker now. It's because of this approach. But it does take a lot of tenacity to make yourself keep on going to these events when you're not so sure you know enough. You'll know enough if you keep going. It's kind of a bit of a vicious circle, but yeah, hopefully you've got enough friendly people in the session that you go to that don't put you off, because unfortunately that can happen, and it breaks my heart whenever I hear a student that's had a really bad time in a session because of somebody's nasty comments. So yeah, but even then, don't let it put you off. Just keep doing you.
Hmm. Yeah, keep going. Practice is the key.
Yes, definitely.
Mel, I mean, all these tunes. I mean, I know probably a third of them, but I mean, they're all fairly obviously pretty easy to play technically. I find it's quite hard though to play a tune until I've got it into my head first, so I know where it's going.
Yeah.
Because once I've done that, my fingers will probably do the rest, as it were. But if you don't actually if you're not familiar with the tune, that makes it quite hard for me to then join in without kind of knowing where I'm going.
Yeah, what the
But,
root of it is. Yeah.
okay, yes, you said the little building blocks that you can recognise,
Yeah.
but it's still a challenge.
Absolutely. And it's good to recognize that, and thank you for saying that on the mic, because it is for everyone to be in
Yeah.
that, to be at this stage in this journey. You're not going to know that it's predictable. So as I was playing through these tunes, I kind of thought, this is predictable to me now, not just because I know the tune, but say in a session, and I had it recently, or back in January, February, I was playing with a group of my friends from Gloucestershire. A lot of these tunes and a lot of things I'd never heard, but were so similar. And I just felt really relaxed, following along my instinct, following the familiar patterns, filling in the gaps willy nilly in whatever way, but always listening, because I'm like, I've filled in that gap in a kind of ramshackle way. Next time that bit of the tune comes round, I'm going to really listen, because then I can fix it in the moment. But what keeps me on track with the tune and the rest of the musicians is having this sense of what's predictable. If I hear a pattern of notes going up, I can pretty much guarantee that the next phrase is going to be a pattern of notes coming down. So it's things like that, and obviously they can go up and come down in different ways. Is it a straight scale? Is it a fancy scale? But there's this general pattern of predictability that as you play more and more and you hear more tunes and in you are kind of involved in those sessions where you're not so sure but you're really engaging, you're listening even if you're not playing, you start to build this repertoire mentally rather than physically. It will come physically obviously as you start to learn the tunes, but it's like you have this mental pattern recognition system of, oh yeah, this sounds like so and so, or I'm sure in a minute if we've just gone up in the scale we're going to come down in the scale. Because that's kind of what I'm getting at really, is there's this very predictable pattern within a lot of English music. And I'm not saying it's all English music at all, because if we got into the realms of 3/2 hornpipes or like old, beautiful old manuscript music, that is, that's where you get a lot more interesting stuff for me, because it's not as predictable, and that's more what I'm wanting to play nowadays. But there's nothing wrong, and I'd still love sitting in a session where everything sounds the same, because it's gentle and it's easy and it's more relaxing that way. And obviously for people who are at the beginner end of things, you want that familiarity, you want easy, you want things that feel kind, you don't want anything to shock you suddenly in G minor or anything like that. Yeah, but thank you for saying what you just did, because yeah, it doesn't make it necessarily immediately easy, but it gives you a helping hand to get there.
Do you Do you find you still get it wrong in sessions sometimes when you're an unfamiliar tune? You get it wrong.
Yeah, as I say all the time, that kind of idea of I follow the familiar patterns, and sometimes it might be that I follow it thinking, oh, I know it's going to do this, where actually when I listen, it's like, oh, it didn't do what I thought it was going to do. So in that essence, yes, I played some wrong notes. Did I care? Not at all. Did anyone else care? No. But next time round, I'm like, oh, this is the bit that I fudged or I predicted wrong. So this time I'm going to play the first few notes because they were right, for instance. But I'm really going to listen to this next bit. And maybe it's kind of like a continuation, but it just deviates slightly. But it's this kind of thing that we listen out for. We follow the predictable, but almost like an autonomous thing. We've got to get to a point where the hand is autonomous. The instrument is just doing its thing, but our brain and our ear can be listening out for, oh, that's different to what I'm playing. And that does take a level of skill to get to that point where you can be doing whatever down here, but your brain is like listening for, I know that was different somewhere. Oh, there it is. Oh, okay, let me change it next time round. And again, that will develop as you become more confident in sessions, and that skill starts to come on board the more you do it. But as I say, the session survival skills that I've broken down into various different Melinars. I'll link them all downstairs, but there's a collection. So if you go on Patreon and look at the collection of session survival skills, all of those skills are listening based, getting over the mistake, the fear of mistakes, because you've got to get over that, to do any of this stuff that I'm talking about. Mistakes, yeah, they happen. Let's embrace that. But let's also keep listening and not panicking, not getting distracted by that little nagging voice in your head that you've done a wrong note. Go away, I don't care. You're getting in the way of what I'm trying to hear in the room. So keep trying to, if you find that is you, all of those anxieties, all of those voices, all of those niggly bits, move on from that. You get past that, nobody cares, and then you can get into the real crux of learning on the fly and picking, really absorbing things as you go into those sessions, those environments. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
It's easy to say in theory, but in practice it takes a long time. It can take a long time. So don't put any mad pressure on yourself to suddenly snap into, any kind of conformity with what I've just said.
But you don't have to play everything all the time. You could just play the little familiar bits as and when they crop up.
Yeah.
I find that I do it on the fiddle quite a lot. You'll just do those same little bits, and then next time through, you'll know what's coming, and then you might know the next note that's coming after that, or just the next phrase.
Yeah.
And it's like painting by numbers, and suddenly you'll have the tune. You won't know what it's called or how you learnt it, but you'll know it. You'll know it when it comes up again.
Yeah. I love that, painting by numbers, playing by numbers. Yeah, that's a nice way of thinking about it. You just fill in the bits that you like or that you know well.
Yeah.
And then the more you relax with that, you do just find that another note pops in there because you're like, oh, my ear has heard that, and my fingers have followed that. It's not necessarily a very conscious process. If you can be in a more relaxed state about it, subconsciously you'll be picking up this stuff, and somehow it makes its way to your fingers. This is when we say I've learnt this by osmosis, because it's it's predictable. I've just absorbed it. I've heard it time and time again that now I can't not play it. That's what people mean when they say that osmosis process. But also, going back to what Paul said about not playing everything, you can just play the right hand. You can just sit and play the chords, because sometimes doing something simple like, okay, I'm just going to follow a G, D, and C. If I can see or hear somebody doing that, I'm just going to do that. And then the rest of your brain is listening to the tune, and maybe you'll start to noodle around and you'll pick out a familiar pattern that you've heard. And then just stick with that, play in the left hand and that familiar pattern as it comes round. And that will be enough. That will be a lovely thing to add to the room, because something I say in my workshops, I don't think I've said it online, is when we are playing together, everyone is giving a gift to each other. That's how I like to think of it. So whatever you are making, whatever sound you're making, is a gift to the collective sound. So if you think of it like that, your gift could be just a simple drone. That would be gorgeous. That would be really nice. Just a one note, I'm going to hold that. But as you're doing that, your brain will be like, oh yeah, I'm hearing everything else now, but I'm actively taking part in that, even if it's just as simple as one note, holding on to that. So try to relax about doing less. You're still adding so much more, even if you're not doing everything.
And you can always hum along as well. to help you get the tune, and you can do that a bit more subtly than you can trying to squeeze it out of the Melodeon. But even if you're just playing chords or something and just hum along, that helps you build the picture of the tune in your mind, the shape of it, and the intervals, and you'll pick the intervals up that way quite well as well.
100%. So I guess
Lovely.
it's having the confidence to find your voice in the session.
Yeah, quietly.
Just like...
You can go to a session and no one will hear you hum. Oh, fabulous. I've got to go now, Mel, but thank you very much for that. That was excellent.
You're very welcome. And obviously there's loads of places we can go from here. We can obviously go into more detail on these tunes or whatever. So just see what percolates around your brain and leave a comment when you're ready to feedback about it all.
Brilliant. All right. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, Paul.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Anybody else want to contribute anything to our beautifully small conversation?
I think what you said earlier on, Mel, about predictability and our ability, if you like, to pick up on patterns, it's spot on. It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because
it can trick you.
Yeah, you can convince yourself that a tune's going to go in a certain direction, and then it doesn't. And of course, that's connected, isn't it, then with just listening. I find when I go to a session that there's a big temptation, isn't it, to start playing straight away if somebody starts a tune, and I just like to sit and listen, because even if it's a tune that I know or think I know really well, it might not necessarily, the way I play it might not necessarily be the way someone else plays it.
Yeah.
And I often feel in some sessions that I sit in on that there isn't enough listening going on, and not enough sympathetic listening going on, and people go off in their own directions and often at their own speeds, and I think that's rather rude.
It's rude, but it's also that thing of, it's just not fun when it's like that. It feels like a competition to me. The other thing as well is, and I haven't said it, I should have started by saying this, is with all of these familiar tunes, they can really trick you into, oh, I know this because it sounds like XYZ. Actually, if you sit and listen long enough, maybe at bar 1 and 2 are the same as what you think it is, but bar 3 it changes because they are so familiar. And I can't think off the top of my head now, but there are a few tunes that sound exactly the same. One of them is known as Not Salmon Tales. I wish I knew exactly what that tune was called, but it's often called This Is Not Salmon Tales. So, i.e. highlighting, don't launch into Salmon Tales because it's not that tune. And you're exactly right. I think of it as a grace period. If you hear somebody play and you're not necessarily familiar with their music, it's lovely to give them an opportunity to sort of set the scene of where they're going, an A and a B. And then if you can pick it up immediately, then go with it. But yeah, if you're playing with people from different regions, they will know different variations. They will know different ways of playing. And it often brings interesting things that, oh, I never play it like that. I'm going to try and hear that now and try and adapt that right now and test it out. Do I like playing it like this person, or do I prefer how I've always played it? And then you can kind of filter that all out as you're doing it, or take it home, get a recording of their version and work on it if it's easier for you to do it like that. But it is a nice part of the conversation and the gift sharing, right? Of, oh, wow, I didn't put that chord there. That sounds great. I'm really going to put that chord there now. I mean, it's how I've learnt 90% of my repertoire. 85% of my repertoire has been learnt in that fashion. And I think that's beautiful, to just have this continual thread of friendship through music where you're sharing all of that stuff. So thanks to Paul, Derek and Steve for their contributions to that conversation, and to Dane for turning up. And he's always the lurker in the background. He always comes to my lives, but he just prefers to sit on off mic and just watch and listen and stuff, which is totally fine. I also have people that just catch up with my Melinars, and I have people that sit off camera with the camera turned off. They don't want to sort of like come over the mic. Loads of different ways of joining in with the live content and catching up with the recordings on my Patreon. So yeah, I hope you've really found that of value and of use. That conversation was a particular gem, a particular highlight from recent Melinars. Thank you so much for watching this video, and hi if you're new here, I'm Mel Biggs. I'm a Melodeon teacher. I teach online all over the world. You can go and find out all about my online resources via my website, melbiggsmusic.co.uk. There's a link down below that you can go and look at me all over the place. I also do a lot of performing and a lot of charity work and kind of Arts Council England funded work and all sorts of different things as well. And yeah, there's loads over on my website. As you will notice, the backdrop to my video today is a little bit different. OG members of my YouTube channel will remember all of the old, maybe 10-year-old plus videos now were recorded with this backdrop. I am back with my parents for a couple of months probably, whilst my house undergoes some rather drastic changes. So yeah, me and the cats have moved in, and I've made a stupid decision to slightly dye my hair purple this morning. It's maybe a kind of quarter-life crisis. I don't know. I'm a little bit older than a quarter-life crisis now. I'm getting on for a midlife crisis, which is mental. Anyway, enough of my ramblings. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you're new here or you haven't done so already, please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you're interested in learning folk music and all sorts of different things. If you're interested in this instrument, or if you're just interested in my own learning journey, I do a lot of different vlogs and stuff. Yeah, so come on board the Mel train and join in with the community. It'd be really great to see you either in the comments on this video or over on Patreon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next on Monday when the podcast goes live. That'll be the Hazel Askew episode, so look out for that everywhere that you get your podcasts, and I will see you on the next video. Cheers guys, bye.